Hey, so how do you know when you are making progress? I mean, is there a way that will tell you that you are actually making progress? And what are some of the ways that you find out whether you're making progress or not? Hey, welcome to the Melbourne Live Show, and thank you so much for joining me once again. And today, I want to share with you this topic that has been on my mind, and I think it's crucial for you, especially for any one of us who are looking at wanting to make a difference and wanting to be able to achieve our goals. This is a very, very important topic. So how do you know if you're making progress? Before we get into that, I just wanted to share with you a little story. Today, I was going for a run, and truth be told, I didn't want to go for that run. And the reason, because I have been getting a little bit of a pain in my right heel, and I suspect it's got to do with the pair of new shoes that I got. And I was debating between whether to do the run today or not. And I kind of gave myself that liberty, that day off, and say that, hey, perhaps you want to consider taking that day off. However, when it came to the evening, because usually I run in the morning, but when it came to the evening, what happened was I then felt that need, that desire, that lack of adrenaline rush that I just needed to go for the run. And so I told my wife, um, I'm going to head off for a run and I'll see you later. So I changed into my running gear and my running shoes, and off I went for the run. And as I was running, I used this app called Nike Run Club. So I use this app called Nike Run Club to give me to track my run and to give me a sense of how well I'm doing, what kind of progress I'm making, so on and so forth. And so today, the run that I picked was a guided run, and this guided run was a 25-minute guided run. So this is the third run in the series of runs. So the first one is the first run. The second run, it's called the the second run is just called the second run. So the first run is 20 minutes. The second run is 22 minutes, and the third run is 25 minutes. And as I was halfway through the run, I was feeling this pain in my leg. And so I didn't want to go hard. I didn't want to push myself to run. Instead, I slowed down. And and within that 25 minutes itself, I covered the same distance. However, I took a longer time to complete the run. And typically, that would appear to be like you are not making progress. In fact, you are kind of regressing because in the past you used to do that distance within 20 minutes, but now you're taking the same distance, but you are taking 25 minutes. So it seems like a regression rather than a progression. And I'm glad I picked up the app because during that time, because it's a guided run, so during that time, the coach came on and the coach was saying that, look, at the end of the day, you may not be making, you may not think you are making progress. However, what exactly does progress mean? So progress could mean whether you are running slightly faster or running slightly longer or running slightly out of that usual place that you used to run, or there are many, many ways to kind of measure that. And the point is that as an athlete, as a sports person, we do not want to beat ourselves up. And sometimes we need to listen to our body, and we just need to know that we are making progress, but in other ways. And so when I look at that, and when I at the during the cool down phase itself, the question I asked myself was, what exactly was that progress that I did today in terms of the run? Because I have been running almost every day, and I have been clocking anywhere between 3 kilometers to 5 kilometers per run. And I'm clocking between 20 to 28 or 30 minutes for the run itself. And so I was trying really, really hard to determine where the progress is. And that led me to realize that the progress, a lot of time, it's it's something that we define, and our definition would inevitably determine whether we see this as a progress or we see this as a regress. And so I want to relate these to when we are doing work, right? Especially in the context of running the business, especially in the context of doing this work and really asking ourselves, how would I know that I'm making progress? And so that's what I really want to share with you here today, because I think it's something that it's really, really relevant to you. So, all right. Okay, so just let me get this right. No, I don't want this. Oh, in any case, whatever. So the thing that I want to share with you here today is this. So when we think about progress, many a times we may have that wrong interpretation because we are just looking progress as a two-dimensional thing. So if this is day, progress could mean number of subscribers. And so as each day goes by and we're not seeing that growth in terms of number of subscribers, we may think we are not making progress. We may think that making, we are actually falling back behind. And that is not exactly true, because the thing is that many a times what we are looking at is just one dimension itself. And so what I'd really like to encourage you to do is to think of it this way. There could be many of these charts, and some of these charts, and all these charts would of course measure days, because this is how we know whether we are moving along or not. However, on the y-axis here, in case you folks forgot your basic math in school, on the y-axis here, sometimes it would be number of subscribers, sometimes it will be number of views, sometimes it could be number of people that I spoke to. And so when you have different metrics to measure progress, it doesn't seem like it's just a one-dimensional thing. And when it's not one-dimensional, we begin to realize that there are many moving parts, or there are many variables that will lead us towards the end goal. And so by extension of that, our goal, it's in fact a function of several things that we do. And so this could be item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, and so on. Right? So the goal, it's essentially a function of the things that we do. And to be clear, this is an outcome of whatever we put into here. And one of the things that I like to emphasize to you is when you are choosing these variables itself, what you really want to focus on is the following. You really want to focus on, is this something that you can control? Because, for instance, would you be able to control the number of people who subscribe? Well, the answer is no. But are you able to influence the number of people who subscribe? The answer is yes, because what we can do is we can then focus on some level of marketing. We can focus on getting the word out that could influence the number of subscribers. And so the key thing here is that we need to be very, very careful when it comes to identifying what is it that we are looking at as the variables and tracking progress from there. So a smarter way to do this and to be very clear in terms of how we know we are making progress is the following. I like to take my goal, and from this goal itself, I'd like to break it down into several results. So these results are things that would tell me that I have achieved my goal. In other words, in using consultant parlance, this would be your key performance indicators, because these are the measures that will tell you that you have arrived at your goal. Now, what I like to do is when it comes to this result, I've always placed a strong emphasis on whether it is within my level of influence or it is within my level of control. So what I would want to focus on is that these results must be something that I'm able to influence, or better still, I am able to control. So an example of things I'm able to control would be number of people that I speak to. Okay, because if I say that today I would want to speak to at least 3 people, then I may have to call up 10 people before I get to speak to these 3 people, right? So this is within my control. Now, back to the example again, if I'm looking at number of subscribers, this is something that is within my level of influence, but it's not exactly within my control. And so what I will need to do in this instance here is then to ask myself, what are the activities that are within my control? that will enable me to influence this result. Now, here's the thing. In the past, I used to make this mistake, and I seriously ask you to pay attention to this, because if you too are making this mistake, then you want to figure this out and stop making this mistake as soon as you can, because otherwise it's going to cost you a lot of time and money. And so the mistake is number one, I tend to focus on activities that are too distant from the results, right? So activity that are too distant from the result. Now, what do I mean by that? I could foolishly choose a result like I want 70 people to sign up. Now, am I able to control that figure? Of course I can't. But what I can do is I can influence that figure. So how do I influence the figure? I can do a bunch of marketing. I can run a bunch of ads. I could do a bunch of videos, and on and on and on. Right? So these are the things that I am able to control to get to this. However, the mistake that I make is the activities that I was doing was too remote, too distant from this result itself. And so if it requires more than 4 steps, right? It requires more than 4 steps. In fact, if it requires more than 3 steps to get to the result itself, that's something that you want to pay attention to, because it will clearly mean that in order for you to do the activity to see that result that you want, it's probably going to take you a long time, or there could be a better way to do that. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two was that I was focusing on the activities that doesn't have a direct influence on the result. Now, it may sound silly, but things like, oh, what theme should I use for my website? You could use any theme, and it could still, or you could buy the most expensive or the most sophisticated theme, and it could still not make a difference to whether you will get your customer or not. I would focus on things like silly things like color. I would focus on things like how the logo looks like, right? I mean, it seemed important, but truly, these are things that aren't going to help you get the results. At least not directly, and at least not even remotely. And so you want to make sure that you do not focus on activities that have a that have no bearings, have no impact on your goals itself. And the third mistake that I make was that I was afraid to pitch, in the sense that I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid that people would tell me no. And that is a huge mistake, because the faster you can get to the no's, the faster you can get to the yeses, right? So, in summary, here's what you really have to pay attention to. First, how do you know you're making progress? Well, do not just focus on one dimension. do not just focus on one metric itself. You want to focus on a different set of metrics. You want to look at a different set of metrics that would tell you that you're making progress. Now, how do you know that these metrics are the right ones? This is when you need to ask yourself, will this metrics leads me to my goal? In other words, this thing that you are tracking, whether you're making progress or not, should tell you whether are you leading towards your goal. Because if you are, then those are the right activities. If it's not, then those might be the activities that you want to skip. And when it comes to activities, there are primarily two categories that you want to pay attention to. One category is these are activities that are within your level of influence, which means you may not be able to control the outcome, like for example, number of subscribers, but what you can do is you can influence the number of people who subscribe to your channel. In other words, you can do some form of marketing, you can talk to people to get them to subscribe to your channel. Now, but whether they will subscribe to your channel or not, that is another thing. So you can influence, but you have no absolute control over it. Other things are things that are within your control. For example, you could say that I want to make one video every day, and that's within your control. And you believe that the more content you make, the better you become, and the better you become, the more likely will people want to come to your channel, right? So within your control, it's I'm going to make a video a day. Now, having said that, when it comes to looking at activities that are within your control or outside of your control, what you would also want to avoid are the three key mistakes. Mistake number one is, are these activities too distant, too remote from the result? As an example, if this activity is 3 or maybe more steps from the result that you want to achieve, then it's probably too remote from the result itself. As an example, I need to create a landing page. Now, after I create a landing page, I will need to get people to see the landing page. After I get the people to see the landing page, I will then need to entice people to want to opt in. So these are 3 steps or more towards your goal of getting your customer. If there are 3 steps or more, it means that these activities are too remote from your goal itself. And so what you want to do is to be able to bring yourself closer to the goal, which means the activity should be 1 step or 2 steps at the most remote distance from your goal, right? So that is number 1. Number 2 is you want to ask yourself, are these activities actually going to contribute to their goal? Is it going to contribute to the result? So the example that I give here is, in the past, I used to fuss over what themes should I use, right? What color should I use? How should my logo looks like? And the truth of the matter is that those activities, even if you spend an enormous amount of time on them, it's probably not going to make any difference as to whether people would transact with you or not, right? So that's mistake number 2. And mistake number 3 is, I was afraid to pitch. I was afraid to pitch because I was afraid of rejections. But I fail to understand that the faster you get to the no's, the closer you are to the yeses. And so what you want to do is you want to be pitching every day, and pitching every day is something that you will have to do. And so here's my pitch for you watching today's episode itself. My pitch is, I will be conducting a free webinar on creating products that your customers would love, right? Creating products that your customer would love. If that is something that is of interest to you, and that is something that you want to find out, make sure to leave me a comment or send me a text message, and I will let you know when the program is out, right? So if you want to find out how to create a product that your customer would love, then definitely you want to check out this webinar itself. Okay, so with that, I thank you so much for your time here today. I absolutely love what I've been doing here those last few weeks, and I certainly hope that you like it too. And so, with that, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.